Hello, All-Star listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Veterinary Roundtable, presented by All-Star Veterinary Clinic, the podcast where we answer your veterinary-related questions while having some fun along the way. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to leave us a review on your podcast provider of choice. And if you have any feedback, any feedback at all to offer to improve the Veterinary Roundtable, please let us know, because the reviews are extremely helpful in boosting and the algorithm and all of that, which I don't understand, that Harrison always says make sure to mention. So we are mentioning yet again reviews. Please review the podcast. That would be awesome. And holy cannolis, we have 56 Spotify reviews now. That's awesome.
Almost 60.
We were at 46 a week and a half. There we go. So keep coming on there. Review. Okay. Before we get started with the podcast, though, we do have to promote the book that was written by two employees at All-Star Veterinary Clinic called Chowder Caught a Cold. And it is an amazing story about Chowder, and the pictures are beautiful. We have a registered veterinary technician who did all the pictures, and one of our doctors actually wrote the story. And it is a really clever story.
It's very cute.
Yeah, for ages, I don't know, anywhere newborn to 7 or 8 or 50.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, see, there we go. Holden?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
There you go. See, everyone, all ages enjoy. We're hoping to create a series out of that. So just be on the lookout for what Chowder does next. Check out the social media post on Chowder Caught a Cold. It's a very funny video to promote the book. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Okay. On today's episode, we have myself, administrative assistant or administrative specialist, Sam Cercio, Dr. King's third oldest son and new puppy owner and cybersecurity prodigy, Holden King, registered veterinary technician, Elise Augustine, and my co-host, Dr. Emily King.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Holden, you had to drive the long drive from
I
Lafayette.
I go to school at Purdue, so I drove an hour and 15, but it was totally worth it.
It was totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? Because you get to have lunch with your older brother?
That, and it's free for the viewers out there. It's free. And I also got to finally read Chowder Caught a Cold for free, too, as well. So we had some extra copies here, so that was also very nice.
Okay, excellent. Elise, glad you're here.
Me too.
Missing lunch to join us.
You know what? That's okay. That's okay.
We really appreciate that. You don't look like you should miss lunch, so
I'll eat it later.
Okay.
There's veggies in there. I've been snacking on some veggies.
There you go. Okay, that's awesome. Everybody's in good shape today. Feeling good about a Tuesday.
Amazing, even except for the weather.
I was going to say, even with the crappy weather.
Yeah.
It's raining in Lafayette right now. So.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah, and 45.
No good.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's May, so it's got to get better soon,
Right.
quickly.
Fingers crossed.
All right, well, let's get started with Icebreakers. If trapped in a horror movie, who would be the first one to die from your team? Sam.
I was thinking about this long and hard, and I think it would be Kelly.
Okay. Kelly Waugh.
She does not run. She won't run. She would rather die.
She would rather die than run?
I agree with that. I do think that is very Kelly-esque.
my
I thought about
gosh.
Christy too, but I think Christy would probably try to make a little bit of an effort, but Kelly would be like, nope, just take me first.
Just take me first. Okay, we're going to have to ask her
And I was going to say,
Her-
if she disagrees, she can comment,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I don't think she'll disagree.
Holden?
Well, I don't really have a team.
Well,
so,
think of your brothers then.
I was going to say my team can be the family.
Yes, your family.
So based off of our family members, I'm going to say I'm gonna go with Trevor here. A strong, just because I feel like he would get so scared that he would stop running, but then he would start giggling or something, and then he would.
That's pretty accurate.
I would agree with that.
And then he'd probably die. So,
Yeah, that is pretty accurate. He'd try to befriend somebody.
Right.
either that
or make sure that everybody else went and he would be
Yes.
last.
Yes, exactly.
Or Calvin would try and maybe box, the zombies.
Yeah.
or, which also
Parkour
would
off
go
of
over
it,
great.
perhaps.
He'd pull out his
Yeah, or like maybe a
pocket
golf
knife
club. Who knows?
or a golf club. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I would say for my team.
When I first saw this, I first thought Faust, but then I thought about it because she is so competitive. Like,
Yeah.
it would be like a game for her to win to survive.
I agree.
She is not going to go down.
She's not. I agree.
And then, I don't know. I don't think Delaney would go down either. Like, Delaney looks like she would stand up to like whoever is in like this horror movie, whoever the murderer or whatever. Like Delaney looks like she would just punch them in the face. Like
Yeah.
she would be like, I'm not doing this.
She'd win the bar fight.
So maybe me,
Yep.
but like I've seen a lot of horror movies, and
You're voting for yourself
I
first.
guess so, because like my team members, like I think they're gonna survive.
Oh yeah, definitely agree with
I would
the
go
Faust
down
comment.
swinging though. Like I'm not gonna lay down and scream. So
I was thinking of it as all the doctors. Who would it be? And I would say it would be Pulse. She would try and reason her way out of, like, convincing the person to be
I can
more
see that.
loving.
I can see that too.
Like, you know what? You're really not a bad person at heart. I think you should rethink your strategy. And then she'd be gone.
Are you sure about that?
Oh, gosh.
Okay, and then the second is, what is something you did when you were younger that makes you cringe to think about now? My Facebook stuff that I posted in high school, like you can look, like there's memories of like some of the weird things that you did and said. And I was like, why would anybody care that it was raining outside and that you were upset about it 10 years ago? Like legitimately 13, 14 years ago. Like literally, who cared? Literally, who cared?
I bet there's a lot of people who could use social media as the thing they would look back on and cringe.
Oh, 100%.
Yep.
Glad we didn't have it.
Yeah, it was my
you
Facebook
guys are lucky.
statuses, and I don't have access to my Instagram, but I'm sure I had some weird Instagram posts too back then.
Holden,
For
you're not very old, so
Mm-mm.
you're right, I'm not. I'm only 20. I have two. One of the ones is from Instagram. I think when I first downloaded Instagram, you let me get some clothes at Dick's one time, and it was a green neon, like a sport hoodie, I think, that was hideous, and then some elite pink socks, and I think it was some weird patterned basketball shorts, because I think I was playing basketball at the time.
mhm.
And I decided to lay them out on the floor as if they were like dressed as the floor, and then took a picture and put it on Instagram, being like, "Oh, like what guy does that? I don't know." That's probably why I didn't have very many followers.
New clothes, Holden.
And then one of the other things when I was little, when I would get in trouble, you guys would send me up to my room, as most parents do, and I ended up, I think when I was younger, if I got really angry, I would, because we had bunk beds then, I would sit on the top bunk and I would just rub my feet on the wall. And you guys would come in and you guys would yell at me because I'd be waking up Trevor and also dirtying up the wall.
It was a
With my
twofer.
feet. Mhm.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Totally worth it though.
Yeah. We had asphalt, so your guys' feet would get dirty all the
Mhm.
time in the summer because they would run around without shoes on.
Oh, up front, probably too. Yeah.
And so then they would come inside and,
Rub their feet on the walls.
rub their feet on the walls.
Yeah.
Cute.
As a sign of rebellion.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What about you, Elise?
Back when we had cell phones that weren't smartphones and you had to press the 2 a bunch of times for a letter and you were texting, I had one of those it was like a tagline or something, like it sent every time you sent a message.
Oh,
like,
your signature.
your signature, that's what it was.
I remember that.
I had a signature, and that's just cringy in itself.
Oh, that's
I remember
hilarious.
those.
And they were like so dumb, and
They were
I don't
dumb.
even remember what they were, but like I bet I could like look back and be like, that's really cringy.
Mhm.
Oh my
And
gosh.
just the way you used to text, like LOLs, put a Z at the end of things, and like
Oh, yeah.
not spell
10
things
extra of the
out.
same letter.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
that's totally cringy.
Oh my
Didn't experience
gosh.
any of that.
That just brought back some nostalgia for you to bring that up.
Yeah.
Oh
Ay, ay,
gosh.
ay.
I don't know. What is something that you did when you were younger that makes you cringe? Oh gosh. I'm just trying to think of something. I'm sure there's plenty that I did.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what age group. What age? I'm trying to think. What'd you say? My old yeah, Harrison, that's a good one. Thank you for reminding
Well,
me.
which
My old
era.
hair. Harrison said my old hair. When I look
because
back
the fro
at
was sick.
what the fro? You like the
Yeah,
fro?
There's that picture in our basement where you're literally midair with the basketball with your fro flying back.
Yeah.
It does look
That's
pretty
such a-
cool.
I had the
such a good
fro. I had this weird haircut when I was like in 6th grade. It was like just like mapped around my face. It was like only like this long. It was just, who knows? Hair in general.
In general.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would say. Yep. What was I thinking? Clearly wasn't thinking.
But
You're
so was your hair naturally curly or no?
No.
So
No.
you got
We had
you got-
perms. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, we got perms.
Goodness gracious.
Yep. You asked about getting a perm one time.
I don't remember everything I did. I don't think
I could
did.
see you being the one to ask, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I pretty much had a perm.
Or
like,
Johnny.
that 8th grade year when I had that mullet,
Yes.
essentially.
Yeah, you did.
Gosh, that was hideous.
Yes, that was bad.
That was disgusting.
I remember you came back from the haircutter and you really didn't even get your hair cut.
No, she cut off like 1/4 of an inch, and I was like, it looks different. And you made me, she made me go back and get pretty much all of it shaved off. I was like, this is so bad.
Gosh, now look at you now. You got nice tight haircut.
Nice
That's a
short
good
hair.
mother. That's a good mother. She was looking out for you.
Thank gosh, yeah. All the girls would have been running away.
Oh, gosh. All right. So now we are on to case collections. So we've got to share an interesting case that we've seen or encountered recently. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Dr. Faust and I, we have this cat, Lola Troxel. We love her. We love her family. Faust actually used to see them in Kokomo when she practiced in Kokomo, and then they moved here. It was funny because Faust was like looking back, was like, I know these people. I know them.
Oh, that's so funny.
But she is she had diabetes. She was a diabetic cat, and we just could not control her diabetes. Like every time she would come in for a curve or fructosamine, we'd have to increase her insulin. I think at one point she was at 6 or 8 units, which for like a cat, like that's crazy. And like we just could not control her. Like we did the Libre, which is like the self-monitoring one that you like install on them, and like Faust was like, I just don't know what to do anymore. And then one day she came in and she was in diabetic remission.
Look
a
at
week
that.
before her family was going to Disney World.
Wow.
And me and another girl were pet sitting for her. Actually, Cindy did most of the pet sitting. I really didn't do anything. And I know Cindy was really nervous about giving insulin to her. And it was like worked out so perfectly that right before she went into diabetic remission. And she's still in diabetic remission. And
Praise Jesus.
the sweetest cat.
Cured.
Just so sweet. And such a lovely family. I love them.
That's
But-
awesome.
Wow.
That happens in cats with diabetes.
Yeah.
They
I
can
know
go
that.
into spontaneous remission. You give them insulin for a little bit of time, and then their pancreas decides, never mind, I'm going to make some insulin.
Mm-hmm.
And we were struggling with like getting her to eat, which she's kind of a chunky cat. So you would think, she likes food, but we were struggling to get her to eat. And it just felt like such a struggle. And like nothing that we did like helped. And then all of a sudden she was like, all right, well, I'm done now. I'm done with this. I'm going to be in remission now.
I didn't
Very
know that
interesting.
was a thing.
Yeah.
Well, they can have they can have like triggers like pancreatitis, which can present interestingly in cats. So they can go like anorexic, they can become diabetic, and then, as the pancreatitis resolves, then some of that inflammation involving the pancreas goes away. And so then they'll start reproducing insulin. So you kind of allow things to rest by giving them insulin, and then
okay. That makes sense.
they slowly start to reproduce insulin again.
Huh.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And they're super like observant owners. And I think what they noticed was that she was like increased water intake, which
Mhm.
never really slowed. And she has kidney disease as well, which is a factor now is why she's drinking so much water. But we just rechecked her levels recently and she's still in remission. So.
Yeah, that's
Good.
awesome.
Good. Mine always seems to be anytime I'm on the podcast, it's either my personal pets or my relatives' pets. This time it's Baron. So Baron was neutered and had his gastropexy 3 weeks ago this week, and everything was going well. My mom was doing everything that she needed to do. On day 12, she took him outside to play ball, and then the next day, his scrotal area was like super swollen. So she was really concerned. I brought him in last week to see Dr. Jones. It was very swollen. So she like took the ultrasound probe to it, to see if it was like edema versus like blood that was in there, like thinking it was a hematoma. So we decided to just put him under anesthesia again, and she found out that it was infected. So she was glad that we ended up doing the ablation to get rid of it. He's on antibiotics and he's doing really well, but this close to being done with like recovery, and then he gets to go back under the knife to have that removed. So now we won't have that problem in the future, but
Yep.
leave it to Baron. But it's fine.
Leave it to Baron.
Huge, man. He looked like he had horse testicles.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So scrotal hematomas or abscesses, those can be common after surgery. Scrotal hematomas more often than abscesses, but
Right.
I think when Jones opened it up, like she like hit a pus pocket and it just like shot.
oh God.
Yeah.
Mm.
She said she like squeezed it and it was like significantly smaller after she did that.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Nice. Great
No.
details.
So she was
right
glad-
before lunch.
She was glad we took it
I'm
off.
not hungry.
Yes. Well, some people will preemptively, there's some thought behind preemptively doing scrotal ablations when you do neuters on large breed intact male dogs
Yeah,
in order
'cause,
to
I mean,
prevent,
he's almost
those types of
3.
scenarios. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I was more concerned about the gastropexy because it was an abdominal incision. So I
Right.
was worried about him keeping quiet because like this morning he came in from outside and then just like torpedoed through the house. Like, so
Yep.
you would think that would be the concern, but no, it ended up being that. The neuter site more or less more than the gastropexy, but the gastropexy site looks great,
Yep.
looks fabulous.
Oh my gosh. That's too funny.
Uh,
Holden, what's your case?
We dealt with a lot of stuff this week. Case. We can talk about. I can talk about Kaya. I have a Doberman. Her name's Kaya. She recently got her ears cropped, which is pretty controversial. Some people think it's abusive, and I obviously am on the other end of the spectrum because I had them done. She's pretty much healed now. She's posted. And they're already standing on her own. She's doing pretty good. That's kind of my case so far. We dealt with a good amount of bleeding at first when she first got them done. And now, after the scabs have healed, she's pretty much good to go. So she keeps, kicking off her ear posts. So I've gone through about 20 feet of backer rod in about 3 weeks. 10 rolls.
Lowe's are like, what are you doing?
10 rolls of tape, and gosh, I'm spending way too much money on just tape. You would think, but because you can't reuse athletic tape, so I guess you can't reuse any type of tape. But
Right.
yeah,
That is
that's my
annoying.
case.
My case is a 12-year-old mixed breed terrier that presented for vomiting and diarrhea, and she had mild abdominal pain on presentation. And so I've known this patient for quite a long period of time, and we ran labs on her to compare to her previous labs because I knew some of the previous abnormalities that she had. And her liver values and her pancreatic values and her gallbladder, the values associated with her gallbladder function, were through the roof. And so we did an ultrasound, and the ultrasound showed that was a second test diagnostic level that we did was ultrasound. So then we looked at everything in her abdomen. Her liver was, had changes with it, associated with it, but her gallbladder had congealed, if you will, sludge in her gallbladder. And there was gallbladder wall edema or swelling. Then she also had evidence of pancreatitis on her ultrasound. And so she had pancreatitis that was probably secondary to her gallbladder issue. The gallbladder issue could have been an incidental finding. We found it because we were looking at her abdomen because of the pancreatitis. But I thought for sure, because the treatment of choice for a gallbladder mucocele, which is what that's called when that bile can't move, it's called a gallbladder mucocele. And I thought for sure she was going to have surgery because that's how you treat those. And because they rupture, and when the gallbladder ruptures, then you're toast. So I sent her to the emergency clinic because they were going to need to do a removal of her gallbladder. But they ended up hospitalizing her overnight to treat her pancreatitis first. And she was doing so well that then they put a pause on removing her gallbladder. And so I'm getting ready to recheck her gallbladder next weekend. and she's doing really, really well.
Good.
That's awesome.
So that's, a credit to the owner's quick treatment and,
Oh yeah, for sure.
willingness to kind of jump in all over and start treating her, aggressively. And she responded really nicely.
Good.
That's
So
good.
Pancreatitis is hard.
it is hard.
Especially with all the other things.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and then I just recently learned that like removing your gallbladder, or at least in pets, is more complicated than I thought. Because I was like, oh, well, we can do that here, right? And we're like, oh no, they have to go to the specialist for that, just
Yeah.
because of all the things that it entails to remove it. So
Well, and I think the procedure of removing it's not difficult. It's everything that happens after you remove it. So like the post-operative monitoring and recovery is very difficult and requires constant supervision, which we're not set up for.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes
So-
sense.
Yeah. Very interesting cases.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On to listener questions. So we've got 2 today. First one, how long after a dog has a litter of puppies can she be spayed? And this is from Patrick Warner, who's an OLG person, if I'm guessing. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So, okay. Am I the only one who needs to answer this? Or
I don't
Elise, hit me. What you got?
I think I've heard this, that you can, like, if a dog were to have a C-section, you can spay them at that time. It's not necessarily ideal, but it doesn't like stop any milk production or things like that. But I think normally you would maybe wait until the puppies are weaned and they're gone, and then would maybe be an appropriate time to spay them.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, sometimes you're forced to spay the dog at a C-section due to circumstances or the owner's wishes. But yeah, the first initial part of milk production will be okay. But then a lot of times you may end up orphaning, like the puppies may end up needing to go on another mother, or you have to orphan feed them, so it can be a bit of a nightmare. But I would say, yeah, once the puppies are weaned, you've had enough time then for that uterus to settle down. So one of the advantages to waiting is that everything's so friable while all of that is happening. And so let it all settle back down, but prior to the next heat cycle. So
Yeah, before the next heat cycle.
How often do you guys see C-sections?
It's like
Couple
brief
times a
and
year.
bit, Yeah.
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 couple times a year, just because of like how they're, when they have puppies, they usually, it's like twice a year, winter, summer
Right.
kind of time frames. So you'll see some in the winter and you'll see some in the summer, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that seems to be.
Yeah. We
And it's
haven't
because
had one
it's
in a
usually when
while.
we see them, we see more of them.
Right.
Like, cause
right.
it's like that time frame where,
Mhm.
you'll get called from emergency clinic saying, hey, we can't do this dog C-section. Can
Right,
you guys do
right.
it? Or, and then you'll get another call that week, and then you get another one the next week, and then you don't hear about them for a
right.
while.
It just comes in waves.
Mhm.
Yeah, when we haven't had one in a while, so we're
Mm-mm.
probably due soon. As
Summer's coming.
Summer's coming.
Summer's coming instead of winter's coming. Summer's coming.
Right. Oh yeah.
So yeah.
And then our second listener question, from S Miller 889910 is, what are our top 5 puppy training tips? Crate training.
Mhm. Crate
That's
training,
your
crate
tip
training,
is to crate train.
Yes.
Make sure
No.
your animal's crate trained, your
Yes.
dog.
Do not neglect the crate.
No, dude,
Don't.
yeah.
And they're not in pain when they're in there. Just let them bark.
No, but
That's
even
the first one.
like, I haven't had to use a crate for my adult dogs, but like I took Wilson camping 2 weeks ago and I brought the crate because when we were leaving, I didn't want, not that he would ruin anything anyway, but like it's not my place. So when we left, we put everybody in their crates, and sure, he was sad, but I knew he was safe. I knew everything that he could have gotten into was safe. And sure, it just hurts his feelings that he has to be in there temporarily, but even now that, gosh, he hasn't been in a crate for probably 2 years now. And
You can
I
still
had no
use it
problem.
as a tool.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I had no problem getting him in whatsoever. Sure,
Yeah.
he was sad about it, but
Yeah. That's definitely not the number one, at least that I can think of. I mean, that's something so minuscule that you can just do right off the bat.
Mhm.
Yep.
And they're going to hate it. Every puppy hates it. It's not going to be like, every dog is going to bark in the crate when they first go in.
Right.
Well, and I
it's
think there's
nothing
a
new.
very small percentage of them that are truly claustrophobic.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that does happen, but it's not
Mhm.
very frequently at all.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I think
seen
it's
one
more
case.
FOMO. They
Yeah.
just
Oh,
don't
yeah,
want you to walk
definitely.
away. They want to be with you doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why they get upset, is because you're walking away
Yeah.
and they can't go with you because they're trapped essentially, but they're really not
Right.
trapped.
And positive reinforcement with the crate.
Yeah.
Luckily, Force Breeder started crate training before I ever got him. So
Mhm.
she had crate set up. That's where all the puppies slept. They were open so they could come in and out as they pleased. But when I first brought him home, and that first night, I was so prepared that I was not going to get any sleep. Like, I was so prepared, like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. He's going to bark all night. And I put him in his crate and he went to sleep.
Yeah.
And he slept for like most of I let him out once and he slept for the most of the night. I was like, oh my
Good
God.
job.
This is so nice. And he whines every now and then in the crate, but he'll whine and then he just settles right down. But I did realize that if he was tired at first, he was more willing to go in the crate versus if I was like doing something where I couldn't watch him and I needed him to be in the crate and he was awake, that's when he would kind of have a freak out.
Yeah.
And so we worked really hard with, I would throw toys in the crate. And so we would like play fetch and he would go in there. Sometimes during the day, I would just randomly throw treats in the crate. And so he was like, oh, there's treats in here. And then we worked with, when he would go in there a couple of times, I would shut the door, and I would open the door. And I would shut the door, and I would open the door, and I would shut the door, and I would give him treats through the door. And we worked, I think it took a weekend, and then by the end of the weekend, he was fine to go in the crate, whether he was asleep or awake.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's not a punishment, it's a happy place.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I think that people, when they get puppies, one of the important things to realize is that as soon as the dog comes into your environment, they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to start working with them right away.
Yes.
Because dogs, I think it's like 3 weeks to 3 months is their socialization and kind of like this desensitization time period that you need to take advantage of.
Mhm.
And as soon as they come in, they are looking and what we call making connections that for anything that's good for them, because they really don't care about anybody but themselves.
Yep.
So if they do something and it's good for them, then they repeat those behaviors. And so what we counsel people a lot of times to do is to make sure that, so we use clicker training as a tool of making connections. And so I would say one of the top 5 training tips would be clicker training, because it's a great way of capturing behaviors and it gives you a bridge to a reward. So it gives you a time period to deliver the reward. So I think most behaviors say that the reward has to be delivered within 1.5 seconds in order for the dog to make the connection. So that's really hard to do when your treats are
super
over there. And,
Right.
You gotta reward the dog. So that's why sit is so easy to teach, because they're in front of you and you're giving that reinforcement, that reward very quickly. So they've made the connection very easily. But there are lots of other behaviors that you really want to capture. And I think the mistake a lot of people make is they want to correct things they don't like instead of tagging what they like.
Yeah.
And because the dogs form connections, it's much easier to train with them making connections. So anything that you like that they do, you want to tag that behavior. All 4 feet on the floor, walking past the trash can, not jumping on the counters. Like all of those things should be reinforced on a regular basis. And I think then that sets them up to, because then they're perform those tasks or those, skills on a daily basis. They're getting rewarded. So then they repeat them. And it's less training you have to do after that 16-week
Right.
age frame. Because a lot of times people reinforce things they didn't mean to reinforce just by accident.
Yep.
I mean, we've all done it. I've done it. Everybody's done it. You push the dog off of you that jumps on top of you. That's reinforcement. Or stop barking. That's reinforcement. It doesn't matter that it's negative or,
Right.
It's
Right.
still reinforcement. So I think it's really important, that we recognize that when they first come home, they're learning. You need to jump on top of that right away. Take advantage of the type of learning that they have before 16 weeks of age and tag connections. And then it keeps you from having to untrain later
Right.
when they're older.
Yeah.
Those are my several tips.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, desensitization, like, as a whole umbrella, like being with touching their feet, touching their ears, touching their mouth. I still hug my dogs in a restraint, but I'm telling them I love them and I'm kissing their face too, but I'm also holding them like in that normal restraint. So if somebody else, I bring them in and you're doing somebody's blood draw or vaccines or something, they're not like, oh, why are you touching me like that? Why are you holding me like that? It's not a foreign concept to them when they come here. And another thing with the crate training, like they have to be in a run or a cage when they come here, whether it's they're being dropped off for the day or they're here for surgery. Like they're for their own safety and for other pets' safety, they have to be secured and something like that. So if the crate is not a foreign concept to them when they come here, then they're going to be okay when they're here in a run or a cage until they get to go home. So, but yeah, definitely, especially from my own personal experience, the desensitization with the ears, the mouth, the feet, the everything, because it's so much easier to do nail trims at home for me than bringing them in here. Absolutely. And the sling is a great tool, but I love just being able to do it at home. Like I just really worked with both of my dogs, and like this weekend I was trying to do it with Wilson, and I just need to like trim his feet because his hair kept getting caught in my Dremel, but it's just so much easier versus like bringing him here, getting him in the sling, which again is a great tool because it works really well for a lot of our patients that come in. But if you can save you the couple bucks, however often you need to do it, and to be able to do it at home too,
it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that's great because I think a lot of owners forget, like, you have to bring your dog to the vet eventually. And so I don't think they ever think of handling like a dog, like as you would if you go to the vet clinic. And I'm doing puppy classes with Forrest right now. Holden and I are doing puppy classes together with our dogs in the same class. And that was like one of the first things that he mentioned was like handling. And he was like, your dog is going to have to go to the vet, and they will so appreciate if your dog can be handled, like touch their feet, touch their mouth, touch their ears. And I think that as an owner, like I would never thought of that. I would never been like, oh, I should touch my dog's ears because someday I might have to put ear meds in. And and Forrest, he's 13 weeks and he needs ear meds and he needs eye meds, and for most part he does really well. But like I didn't do that stuff with Scout. I didn't get her as a puppy either, but like I didn't touch her feet, and she hates nail trims. She hates them, and like it's like the bane of my existence to give her a nail trim and to do ear meds and stuff. But Forrest is already doing so great at it. And I was really appreciative that they had mentioned handling, and that they were like, you're going to have to take your dog to the vet. And like, your dog does not only have to be a good dog at home, your dog has to be a good dog out in the public and at the vet clinic and things like that. That was really, I appreciated that they mentioned that.
Holden, as a non-industry person, since you're not in our industry and you're in cybersecurity, what as an owner of now 2 puppies that are very good dogs, what do you think was like a key to your success?
Well, I think I'd like to first touch up on, I think that socialization is really important, but I think, and I didn't know about this until I kind of, Marty kind of grew up and, you know, saw more things, and I saw how he reacted to different scenarios. I think I over socialized him. I think you can do that with dogs, where you want your dog to be okay being around anybody, everything, but you don't want them to want to try and meet everybody. And you can see that with Marty. You know, he tries to choke himself trying to meet people, and obviously that's not, you know, that's not bad, but I mean, it's, you know, it gets embarrassing. And I think that's a big part of dog training as well. That's, you know, been one of my hurdles is, you know, when the dog messes up, you know, it's going to mess up. You can't really be that embarrassed about it. And I think definitely consistency has been one of my successes. And also realizing that they're just a puppy. Like, I ran into this problem with Marty where I was expecting so much from him, and I'm like, he's only 8 months old. He's not a 5-year-old dog that's just going to be calm. You know, I told my mom that I'll run Marty for like 5-6 miles and we come home and then he just starts doing dumb stuff. I'm like, how are you tired? Like, how are you not tired? And he's just a puppy, you know, and I think that's definitely been one of the key factors. Another one, the clicker training's great. And I think knowing that the dog understands that you're the alpha, because a lot of people run into one of the pit bulls in our class doesn't see their parents as the alpha, and you can see that he acts out, he tries to bite them, he looks like a little demon in there. It's pretty fun. I told her about it. Yeah, he literally, like, you could hear him, he makes some weird noises over there.
He does make some weird noises.
I mean, I doubt he's a mean dog at all, but he doesn't respect his parents, at least from what it looks like. And I think you need to make sure that the dog sees you as the alpha, and I never really understood that until I got a big breed like Kaya, because she's a Doberman, and a lot of owners have issues with them not seeing them as the alpha, and then you develop resource guarding. They don't listen. They try to overprotect you, things like that. And you can do simple things like hand feeding them their meals. I did a lot of things like when Kaya eats in her big metal bowl, I put my hands in there, I mess with her food. I'll like, not really, I don't smack her in the face, but like, I'll like mess with her face while she's eating, things like that, to really understand that, I can take away the food if like, I wanted to. You have to listen to me. And that sounds harsh, but in the end, I think it's a really good tip to make sure that the dog sees you as the alpha, because they mentioned that too. The second class, there's a pecking order that they go off of, and they really, really, really want the dog to see you as the alpha. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I think the at the end of the day, the dog is only as good as the person training them. Really, I mean, that's what it comes down to, because dogs will do whatever we ask them to. Whatever we train them to do, but we've got to know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's where, when I had said people reinforce things by accident, that's what happens. People love their dog, and so then they reinforce things that they don't want.
Yeah.
They overgreet the dog when they come home because they're so excited to see them. They don't think there's any harm in doing that. I'm so happy to see, they talk in those high voices and they overgreet them, and now all of a sudden their dog doesn't want them to leave, and it's like you would never have thought that doing that would create an issue for you or a behavior problem for you. Yeah. And so I think, people learning and understanding how dogs think is critical to the success that you have with the pet. And remembering these dogs live long lives now. We're talking about 16 years, a lot of them, 17 years. I mean, we're talking a long amount of time that you have this animal in your household.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's really important to understand how they think so that you can set them up for success, but then your environment for success. One of the resources that we really like is Zach George is on YouTube as a clicker trainer. You guys have used him, and we have a lot of clients that like him. He's very realistic. He doesn't work with perfect dogs, so you get a good idea as to how you might be able to handle or how this challenge, you might be able to solve this challenge. But there's so many resources now, Karen Pryor clicker training and Sophia Yen, the perfect puppy in 7 days. So there's lots of resources that preach the things that we've mentioned today. So,
and they also mentioned in puppy class that your goal is to try and make training fun too. And so, because they're not, they're not supposed to be long. What did they say? Maybe 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah,
you do
like
5 or 10 minute like training sessions, and because they're not going to hold their attention for that long.
Correct.
And trying to, when they do good things, like you said, like when they sit and you want them to sit, to reward that and do that. So
What other tips? That was 3? We got 2 more.
Oh, that was a lot. I think we've given more than 5.
Okay.
Probably more than 5 is my guess. I don't know.
There's a trainer called Joe Beckham on YouTube. If you have an older dog, I would suggest watching him as well. He does a lot of like reactivity, redirection, and things like that. He's kind of one of the main reasons I got a Doberman, because his Doberman Prince is beautiful and also incredibly, incredibly well behaved. So that's just another resource if you have an older dog that you maybe messed up as, with the puppy, and you'd like to try and fix some things. So he's got a lot of really good resources.
Just remember, your dog is a dog.
Yeah.
It is not a person.
I
one of the things
love my dogs. I would do anything for my dogs, but my dogs are a dog. And, I love Forrest, but he has to learn that he is a dog. And, there's so many people that love can ruin your dog.
Oh, yeah.
You can love your dog too much, and that can ruin your dog. And they are a dog, and they need to learn to be left alone, and they need to learn that they are a dog. And like I said, I would do anything for my dogs. I would take a bullet for my dogs, but they are dogs. That's what they are.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually
and I
a really
want them
good
to
point.
live a happy dog life.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else to add? I think those are all really good suggestions or points.
Just
I don't think
patience.
so.
Yeah, just be patient.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
And enjoy the process. I mean, it's so exciting seeing your dog learn a new command within a couple like different tries and training sessions. So just be exciting, be patient.
Having
Yeah.
a puppy is fun.
Yeah.
And I've read that people get like the puppy blues. Like I've like
Buyer's remorse.
yeah, like I've like I'm part of like some puppy like groups on Facebook, and some people like sometimes you don't know you're getting a puppy. Like sometimes that just happens to you. When I got Forrest, I like I researched a lot of things. I was very I thought I was very prepared for a puppy. I still feel like I was very prepared for a puppy, but like I read some people get like the puppy blues, and like that's totally normal. Like I had a moment where I was like,
Yeah, same.
what
Same.
did I do?
Right. What did I do?
Exactly.
I'm
Right.
so sorry, Scott, that I did this to you. I got your brother.
Yeah.
And like that's totally normal, but like you be patient with your puppy and then just enjoy it. And like you think that your puppy will never change. I thought Forrest was gonna bite me forever. I thought I was gonna have bruises all over my arms forever, and he still bites, but he's a lot better. It's getting better. Like you will see the progress. So like just enjoy it, just be patient. It's okay if you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, especially with like the barking, because I had the blues when Marty started barking because his was like a piercing bark, and I was like, what the hell did I just do? But it'll get better. Each day is better. So
Have a support system, because Ashley Coleman, who got Ludo a week before I got Forrest, we text all the time, and sometimes she'll be like, this is what's going on with me, and I'll be like, this is what's going on with me, and it really helps. Like if you like can tell a friend like, I'm getting a puppy, like I just need your support, like it's like a puppy mother support group. It's so helpful. And the fact that we're like all in puppy class, like there's 4 of us all in puppy class together, we're all raising puppies together, I think is super helpful.
It's really cool. And actually, we should give a shout out to
Alpha Canine.
Alpha Canine.
Great place.
Yes.
Definitely go there.
They've done a great job with our
have-
clients and then also our employees' pets.
Yeah.
So
And I have the opposite, where I have puppy fever, where every time a golden retriever puppy comes in here,
you're like, I need another one.
I need another one. I have Carol on speed dial. Let me just ask her real quick,
You can borrow Forrest for a week. And
And Kaya, you can take them both.
Yeah.
But she wasn't that bad when you left her,
Oh, no.
when you had your
She's-
doctor's appointment.
she's
I mean, other than walking on the pool cover, I was about to pull my hair out, but
Yeah, and then she like face planted, and yeah, I do have one question for you actually, because
Yes.
you're as you know, our dogs are getting older, and they're getting to the old age of the gray hair. Have you thought about what kind of breed you might get next?
I'm stealing Marty, remember?
Yeah, what? No. I didn't know, because Dad had mentioned our dad. He always says how much he hates dogs, but then the moment he sees a puppy, he's like, "Oh, come here." He does
it's
it
always the
every
dad that
time.
doesn't want the dog that falls in love with
Yes.
him the most.
So have you thought about do you think you'll get like a medium-sized dog, a tiny dog like Lance used to be? Or
I don't know. I'm either taking Moose or I'm taking Marty. I think those are my choices. One of those 2 dogs I'm just going to rotate them. And then you guys can have breaks from those 2 dogs at your houses.
Okay, I like that.
And I will just we'll just roll, and then Johnny's going to end up with a dog. And then Calvin's going to end up with a dog.
That's true.
Or more cats. He was
Yeah.
telling me he wants a husky, and I said that was a really bad idea.
Ooh, yeah. do
Yeah,
not
no,
husky. He's gonna start screaming.
Yeah.
Have you seen the screaming huskies?
Oh, they all do that when they come in.
Oh,
they,
all of
yeah,
them,
they
all
like
of
to do
them.
that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
But
a,
that was our
waking up from under anesthesia.
yeah,
Ugh.
that's a thing
Beautiful
for
dogs.
huskies.
Yeah, that was our one of our many on our way home from school conversation. Sam, I think when I am older and my parents say I can get a dog, I'm going to get a husky. Why?
Why?
Everybody has their breed, though.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You have the breed that you decide you deal with it, and
You just want that breed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly.
Although
what my 2
he
dogs
did
are.
talk about how much he likes Quill, and he sees, like Calvin sees my pictures of Wilson all the time. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I love him so much.
Yes.
And then there I think there was a golden puppy here when he was out of school that day, and he was like, that's it. I'm
That's
getting
it.
one of those.
Oh, jeez.
I said, solid choice.
Okay. Well, gosh, guys, those were great suggestions. I think hopefully we've given S. Miller some tips, and you'll be prepared.
Right.
Mhm.
Read a lot.
Read a lot.
Watch a lot.
Podcasts.
yeah,
Yeah.
use your
YouTube.
resources.
Oh,
Use your
for sure.
resources.
For sure.
So many things to look at.
Exactly. All right. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Filling in on the podcast today. I
Of
really
course,
appreciate
yeah.
it. great information that you've shared. And thank you, everybody else, for turning in to another episode of the Veterinary Roundtable. Remember, send in those questions and be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at All Star Veterinary Clinic. If you enjoyed this episode or a previous episode, leave us a review, like we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast. Review. All right. So you can review us on your podcast provider of choice. We'll see you in a few weeks for the next episode of the Veterinary Roundtable. Have a good one.